John Mcdonnell.
Okay. Can you remember only a year ago that body of the baby picked up off the beach? Can you remember that? That's how desperate things were, where people were coming across, exactly as Zoe said, on life rafts and all the rest, and they were fleeing. They were fleeing. They were fleeing. Sorry, they were fleeing. They were fleeing. They were fleeing. Let me just.
Sorry, John. Just hold a second. Wait a minute. Start again so we can hear the point.
Sorry, that man was in safety. He was living in a camp. He put his children in danger. He brought his child across. He was responsible. Nobody else.
They were fleeing a war zone. They were fleeing a war zone, and then when they get to Turkey, they had no assistance whatsoever, and they were absolute desperation. They were absolute desperation. The whole, if you look at the refugee system that we're in at the moment, I take Dominic's point seriously. We've got to resolve the situation at source, and that means trying to secure peace in Syria itself through the negotiations. I have to say, us bombing Syria doesn't help in that situation. They might just finish on this. Well, no, I believe that we have a duty, humanitarian duty, to do all, exactly as this lady has said, everything we can to assist the refugees themselves. The only way you can do that is if countries come together in a coordinated way, add together their resources, help all we can, of course, around the Syrian borders themselves, but also actually if people have to be resettled, we do it on a planned basis, exactly as Jermaine has said, you do it on a planned and cooperative basis right the way across Europe. As a country, to be frank, in comparison with other European countries, we've failed dismally.
Use Catherine Booth's question, if you could answer just briefly that. Has the crisis been mishandled by the heads of the European countries?
I believe it's been mishandled by every European state, and that includes our one.
All right.
We need to do more, and we need to cooperate to achieve it.
You, sir, there, and then I'll come to you up there. Yes.
I take it the panel watches the internet. If you watch the internet, you will find that half of the stuff you see on the media on the telly is edited. Half of them immigrants, they don't want the water, they don't want the food, they want money, and they want to try to get to Britain.
Okay. And you up there, yes, the woman up there, and I come to you.
Yeah, I volunteer at a local refugee crisis centre, and I think for Louise to basically brand them as people who come here searching for money and for...
I didn't say that.
Okay, you said about their opinions of women, all of these different things. They're fleeing from war zones. Can you imagine how you would feel to have to leave everything behind you, to leave your family?
Right, you made your point. No, you can't. She just commented on what you said. That's fair enough.
I didn't say that, though. She just made that up.
Yes, you.
This union is supposed to be based on unity and solidarity, and each of these member states are just they don't see them as people, they just see them as just nothing really, and it's not on, and I don't see why, I don't see how people can say that remaining in the EU is good if the leaders are going to act in this way. I think it's absolutely disgusting the way they've handled it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a point from you, sir, and then we go on. Yes, the man in the check shirt.
A lot of people are linking immigration to terrorism. Not all immigrants are terrorists, we know that. But I don't want to link the immigration arguments to terrorism. The country cannot cope. The infrastructure, the NHS, housing, it's that we can't cope with the immigrants. We cannot cope.
All right.
Can I
thank you very much. No, I want to go on. I want to go on because I don't want to stick on Europe for the whole programme this week. I want to carry on. No, wait. Just to say where we're going to be next week, which is Dundee and then Chelmsford. And the way to get into this audience and have these arguments, it's on the screen there. You can either call us or you can apply to our website. Right, a question from Barry Pickard, please.
Cutting the top rank of income tax from 50 to 45p raised an extra £8 billion from the super rich. Should it now be cut to 40p?
Should we now cut income tax to 40p because, as the Chancellor Exchequer claimed, it gained £8 billion when they reduced it by 5p. John Mcdonnell?
Well, within hours of George Osborne making that claim, it was refuted by the Institute for Fiscal Studies and many others, because what happened was, is that we saw a huge exercise in tax planning. So people delayed certain payments and bonuses, etc., until that tax regime was reduced. So instead of paying it in the year when it was at 50p, they then delayed that, and so you had an artificial low one year and an artificial high the next year. And what the IFS has said is over the next 5-year period, actually it will cost us, and they're saying about 360 million, something like that. So actually the reduction didn't gain us anything, it's cost us everything. My view is I think that the wealthy and the corporations and others should pay their taxes and pay a fair rate of tax and shoulder the burden that the rest of us do.
Okay. And as Shadow Chancellor, what rate of tax would you have at the top?
We oppose the 45p, and we would put it back to the 50p and leave it at that.
No higher than that?
No, we'd leave it at that.
I thought you wanted to go to 60 at one point.
That was years ago.
You wanted
Actually, there is a good point, to be honest. This whole debate around income tax, I think, is not the issue. The issue is the corporations paying their taxes. Look at Google and all the others. We need a fair tax system, and we need to ensure corporations pay their way. No one else in this audience would have been able to do a deal like Google did, where they put off their taxes for 10 years and then only pay a tenth of what they should have paid. That's outrageous. So the debate, I think, is moving on to tax justice rather than issues around income tax.
Dominic Raab.
So first of all, on the tax deficit, the difference between the tax owed and the tax collected, it is at its lowest level on record. So we have done a huge amount to deal with that particular problem. On tax cutting, when you cut taxes, you spur innovation, jobs growth, and that brings in more revenue. So I think, in principle, it's a good thing. But I think, for me, the focus would be on lower middle incomes. And if you look at what we've done since 2010, those earning £10,000 to £15,000, so lowish incomes, are paying 60% less tax than in 2010. And if you're a millionaire, you're paying 12.4% more tax. So I think those tax cuts are a good example of something that's good for the economy and good for our society. And when I look at Labour, the first real tax policy that they've come out with is raising the basic rate of tax. Now, you're talking about people on £11,000. For the Labour Party, raising taxes is the closest thing they've got to religion. And it's not just bad for enterprise and jobs, it's also bad for our society. Okay. Am I wrong about the basic rate?
Be serious.
Am I wrong about the basic rate?
We've not said about increasing the basic rate. What I've said consistently is we're not focusing at all on income tax.
You're misleading this audience. Jeremy Corbyn has said crystal clear he wants to raise the basic rate of tax. Now, that may be legitimate, but be honest about it.
Look, Don, be straight about this. We've said consistently on the 45p rate it was a mistake to reduce it from 50p. But we've also said we're not interested in increasing the basic rate of tax. What we're interested in is collecting the taxes from the corporations and making sure there's a fair taxation system.
That's the quickest U-turn in opposition I've ever seen.
All right. Making it up as you go along.
Jermaine.
Well, I mean, I agree with John's point about the corporations. You know, I think that issue definitely needs to be addressed. I think it's also probably naive to think if we reduce the level of tax from 45p to 40p, that is then in turn going to create more money, as that figure tried to put across. But look, I think most people are quite happy to pay their way to support our sectors. Now, our sectors, for me, are struggling. Teachers, our schools, our NHS are bursting at the seams. Now, we need to raise money for those sectors to support them. Now, if that means that the rate of tax has to be pushed up to 50p, then it does. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Louise Bours.
These kind of questions always confuse me. I don't know about people sitting in the audience and at home, but when you hear Conservatives and Labour just argue and back up, you know, they're so determined that each of them are right. It always gets very confusing.
Doesn't UKIP believe it's right?
They never do that.
Well, no, what I would like to see, I mean, we have the most complex tax system, I think, in the world. It's tens of thousands of pages long, our tax system. What I would like to see all simplified. I'd like to take people who earn minimum wage, for example, out of tax and national insurance altogether. I don't think they should be paying tax and national insurance if you're earning the minimum wage, so that'd be a help. But we have to target those who make avoiding tax a profession. And we all know who those are, don't we? All the big corporations. And I would like to see a real will within the government to go after those big corporations so that they pay their fair share, because it can never be right in a society where we have people on minimum wage paying tax and national insurance, and we have the likes of Google and Starbucks and all the rest of them paying absolutely nothing.
To do that, though, you have to have international agreements. You voted against the European Union.
Of course.
On those
Do I want
agreements.
the European Union? Hang on, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you want the European Union?
Do you want the European Union having a hold over your taxes?
No, they won't.
Yes, they will.
Country by country reporting.
John, I sit there and I listen to it every week. No, I sit there and listen to it every week. What they want is tax harmonisation across the European Union. These are the things that John and the Labour Party want us to stay part of.
Can you just answer the question that John's put to you?
You voted against country-by-country reporting so we could identify how much tax should be paid in each country. You voted against that consistently.
We voted, and we always vote, and will continue to vote, against anything that hands any further powers to the Commission and to the European Union. No, it didn't. Because when you actually read the thing, you all read them, the Labour MEPs, in such a vague way.
All right, this is going nowhere fast. You in the front here, and then I'll come to you, Zoe. Okay. No, the man here in the front.
OK, I've got some advice to the Chancellor. Cut Ian Duncan Smith, save the country a fortune, and you could have a promotion on the way, Dominic.
That's very generous of Zoe Williams. I will respectfully decline.
Zoe Williams, then I'll come to you.
This chap really hates Ian Duncan Smith, so I'm with you. Just to return to the question, what I find really worrying about George Osborne and his £8 billion figure is that I don't think he did make a mistake. I think he knew that wasn't true. And we do seem to be living through a kind of post-truth politics where there's no kind of onus upon them to say what is actually true anymore. And I would really like to see him held to account more on that. You can't say, we saved £8 billion when you know full well it was just deferred tax from one year to the next. And you really should be held up on it. On the basic level of income tax, it's a really blunt tool. Most people on really low incomes who are taken out of income tax, that money was clawed back through reductions in their tax credits. And the people who really won from the raising of the minimum threshold were people in middle and high incomes. So again, I think there's a huge amount of deliberate mendacity which makes us all think, oh, I don't know who's telling the truth. The fact is, they're not telling the truth often enough.
Okay, but the one here.
If George Osborne did save £8 billion, can he not use that to vaccinate our children against meningitis B?
Dominic Raab, and then thank you.
Well, look, there's huge pressures on the public finances. We've cut the deficit by half as a proportion of GDP, but there's still a way to go. So, which is a short way of saying it's one of those things you'd love to do if you could, but there are so many other campaigns, pressure groups looking to try and find ways to use that money. I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old at home. I know the fear and the concern people have around it. I think it's one of those things we'd love to be able to do if we did have the money, and who knows, with...
Be vaccinated by next year. My 8 and 9-year-olds won't.
Yeah. Well, look, look, all I'm saying is that as a parent, I can totally understand the concern around this. You know, you cannot fund these things in the NHS unless you've got a growing, vibrant economy.
Do you anticipate further cuts in the budget in 3 weeks' time?
I can't preempt the Chancellor what he's going to do. I think we've got to make sure that we've got stable public finances. We continue on the stable path we're going, and when we've got the room to do it, we invest in the vital things, whether it's the meningitis or other other parts of the NHS, and we make sure people have more pounds and pence in their pocket, particularly low and middle income workers.
I'll take a couple more points and then we'll go on to another question. You, sir, there, yes.
The reality is we're all going to have to pay more tax. Why aren't the politicians more honest about it? We seem to be in this race for the bottom. Everybody wants to cut tax. We're living longer. There's more care needed. There are people that are going to be missing out because of all the cuts, particularly in Liverpool, in social care packages. We're going to have to pay more tax. So let's be grown up about it, and let's have the politicians admitting it. And let's have a rational debate.
And the man behind you.